Welcome back. Well, we're about to have one of my favourite conversations. It's about the culture wars, and there's no better person to have a chat with about it than the host of Outsiders, the magnificent Rowan Dean. Rowan, thanks for your time tonight. It's always wonderful to have a chat with you. And there's
we have many great chats, Cory, and I always enjoy them enormously. Now we can do it live on television, even more exciting.
We could get into trouble if we do too much live on TV, Rowan. But look, what about this? This gives me the pips, I got to tell you. Liberal MPs today are calling for net zero by 2050, right? It's the usual suspects. But there is a climate obsession with some of these Liberal MPs who will not let well enough alone. They keep wanting to change the parameters, and that's led the likes of John Ruddock to say, I've given up on you. I'm moving to a different centre-right party. What do you make of all of that?
Well, first of all, congratulations to John Ruddock. A sensible move, a smart move. In fact, my editorial in The Spectator this week is about that. We really need some ballast, as John Ruddock says, in Parliament from the right, from Conservatives, because we've had enough of these lunatics within the Liberal Party who seem to think that they are there to pursue some kind of climate change agenda. They've entirely forgotten, Cory, that the last election was labelled not by the Conservative side of politics, but by the left side of politics, by the Greens, by Christina Keneally, by Bill Shorten and others, as the climate change election. Now, if Trent Zimmerman and Dave Sharma and these characters who support getting to net zero emissions in a hurry, if they really were honest, they would have run on the other side at the last election. They would have run with Zali Steggles. They would have run with the Greens. But no, they piggybacked into Parliament, nice cushy jobs, nice Commonwealth cars driving around Canberra, and nice restaurants and all of that. They got all of that by selling themselves as Liberals, and in a climate change election that the climate change aficionados, Labor and the Greens, lost. That should have been the end of it. We should have heard no more about this climate change rubbish. But Scott Morrison has proven to be extremely weak on the topic, and those within his party who go along with it basically have betrayed mainstream Australia, and I think that they will regret that when it comes to the next election. But let me just say this, Cory. If these characters are really serious about getting to net zero emissions, currently, I mean, it varies state to state, and it varies day to day, day and night, windy or not windy. But let's just say, pick a number. Let's just say, be really, really generous and say that 15% of Australia's energy currently at the best time comes from renewables. So let's be really generous.
Oh, it's half that, I think.
But anyway, exactly. Yep. But let's be really generous. So I would say to Trent Zimmerman and the other Sheila, whose name I'd never heard of before today, who's pushing this bandwagon, you live for the next 6 months on 15% of the current emissions that you currently live on across everything. Transport, your food, your lifestyle, no excuses. You must live on 15% of exactly what you currently live on. And you have to do it for the next 6 months without failure. They wouldn't last 5 minutes, Cory.
No, certainly not in the cold of Tasmania where Bridget Archer is. But they also forget, and I want to move on, Ron, but they also forget that the Liberal Party had bedded down a climate change policy under Greg Hunt when he was Environment Minister. We'd all agreed on it. It wasn't perfect, but it was practical, it was sensible, it was expensive. But then it was reawakened by the likes of Malcolm Turnbull and now kicked off again by Zimmerman and co. Let's go somewhere less ratty, or maybe more ratty. The European Union, they're into the climate policies as well. This time on transport, manufacturing and imports. Brexit was looking like a really, really smart move, and even Boris Johnson seems to have backed away from his green dream a bit too, hasn't he?
Well, I hope so, but seriously, Boris Johnson, the thing with Boris Johnson is you have to keep an eye on who he's sharing his current pillow with, and that gives you a good indication of which way his policies are going to go. And unfortunately, he's shacked up and now married a mad kind of green zealot. So unfortunately, I don't put much faith in Boris Johnson there. But what we forget, Cory, it's all very well for the Europeans to go bang on about net zero. Firstly, they've got nuclear power, which we don't. Secondly, they can plug into Russian gas and they can swap with each other, much in the way that our states, our Labor states, cheat by swapping over at any given time to take fossil fuels from energy derived from fossil fuels from other states. But the key thing here with Europe, what a great example this is of exactly what's happening. You were talking earlier in the show, Cory, brilliantly about Macron and how he's pushing this sort of COVID, COVID passports, everyone mandating vaccines and all this. This is what these big socialist conglomerates like the EU, like the UN do. If they can do it on COVID, Cory, they can do it on climate, and they will go out of their way. If they are given the power, the EU mandarins will be mandating all sorts of stuff in trade, around the world, in negotiations with Australia, all pushing aggressive climate policies that are every bit as damaging and harmful to our economy as the COVID policies that they are pushing are arguably damaging to our health. Sorry, Cory.
Rowan, the Guardian magazine, or the Turnbull Times overseas editions, actually said the quiet bit out loud. They put a report out saying that we might need to have lockdowns in order to meet our Paris climate goals. Now imagine that. They could just engineer these sorts of lockdowns, say there's no power for 2 days, stay at home. That's what we potentially face if we cave into this sort of totalitarianism. It's just
And
crazy.
This is why it is so critical that Australia stands up to this stuff, because we cannot win if we keep caving in and saying, yeah, okay, we'll eventually get there. Yeah, okay. No, we should be standing up to it and saying, absolutely no way. Or the coalition should have the cojones to stand up and say, we've got to go nuclear if we're going to actually be genuine about this game. But also, Cory, don't forget, this is why Brexit succeeded, because the Poms went, we're not going to have this kind of globalist stuff shoved down our throat. I've spoken before about the Great Reset. I know you have as well. And really, this is what Macron is doing on COVID. This is what the EU will do on climate. They will, given any globalist authority over our sovereignty, they will use it and abuse it. And that's why it's so critical to not let them.
That's exactly right. Now, I want to go to one of my favourite subjects, Rowan, which is the Fabian Society, because I keep being assured by Labor politicians they've disappeared and they don't have anything to do with anything anymore. But they are now blaming politicians and the media for stoking the actual culture wars. And they say things are worth fighting for, but why do we have to continue to have battles over whether Rule Britannia can be played at the proms or any other thing? But let me point this out. The society itself was started by eugenicists who thought that, that black people and people that had less than stellar minds didn't deserve to exist and needed to be bred out. They were the racists of their time, and now they're saying that we shouldn't be getting into the culture wars. It's just extraordinary.
And Cory, I really love the way you've been exposing on your evening show all the horrors of things like the Fabian Society, which set out deliberately to infiltrate the free markets, to infiltrate democracies, and to trick their way into power. They set out to do that, whatever it was, 50, 60, 70 years ago, and clearly they succeeded. So now, of course, they're pretending, oh, no, we didn't really do that. But what you see with this whole approach, Cory, is deception, and this hideous deception at the moment that the Fabians are trying to push, that the culture wars is somehow both sides are responsible and really it's all fake and it's phony and it's not really a real issue. It is the left that are constantly pushing to change things, to change our way of life, to destroy our way of life, to destroy our prosperity. The culture wars, on the one hand, is a mob literally determined to tear down everything that has made our civilization great, and on the other side, resisting it, trying simply to hold those statues in place, trying simply to keep those institutions and structures intact. That is the right. There's not sort of some kind of equality here. One side is trying to destroy, the other side is trying to save. So for the Fabians to now rock up and go, oh, well, let's all stop talking about this stuff and let's all just pretend that we're nice to each other, shows that they're winning, and this is why we have to resist even harder, Cory.
This is exactly right. They marked two things, the Black Lives Matter movement and the Alphabet Rainbow Mafia movement, and they said, we shouldn't be making fun of these genuine issues. Well, there may be some genuine issues, but when they're ramped up on steroids and all sorts of outrageous claims are made, and it's just a cover for Marxism, well, they deserve to be pilloried and poked back, and that seems to upset the people that are behind it. It means we're getting close to the target, I suspect, Rowan. So you and I and others will have to keep pushing these buttons and dropping a few bombs, a few truth bombs on some of these clowns.
And keep up the great work, Cory. We're with you all the way, mate.
Thank you. Well, and I'm with you too. I never miss Outsiders. It's wonderful. So thanks for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.